There was one other thing I wanted to mention about rhythm changes as I was looking at these chords that I had written out. As I mentioned, and as you're probably already aware, there's lots of different variations on rhythm changes. In particular, just looking at this, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit more is this bar here. So in this case, I have it written as E flat 7, A flat 7. Sometimes what you'll see written instead is E flat 7 followed by E diminished, depending on the tune. And it's a completely different chord. So just something to think about is that you're going to see different variations. I'll address that kind of specifically real quick. But first, I just want to mention that it's fine if you're not necessarily doing all the exact same variations that someone else is doing. If you're playing, these chords move pretty quickly. So, if you're doing a 1 3 6 2 5, and then the person comping just does 2 5 1, like that's really okay. So, you might see that one tune is written as like uh, B flat 7, G minor 7, and then the 2 5, and then the next one's like uh, you have a G7 instead of G minor. So you might have a minor the first time and then a dominant 7 the second time. It's like you don't have to, like, you could do them both as a dominant 7, or you can do them both as a minor 7. So like little things like that, you don't need to worry about it too much. There are some cases where it's important to be on the same page with the band, and it can be helpful with certain songs. In general, like the slower and the longer a chord lasts, the more you want to kind of make sure, hey, what chord do you play in that bar there? Make sure you're kind of on the same page. But with chords that move kind of quickly, it's really fine for people to not necessarily be doing the exact same thing. So just don't worry about it too much. But I did say that I was going to talk about this a little more because I really haven't talked about these bars 5 and 6 too much. I said, try thinking about hitting an A flat on this bar right here. Now, why did I say that? Well, it's because really this bar is in E flat. This whole A section is mostly in B flat, but kind of this bar right here, it really does, at least the way it's written here, it suggests E flat. So E flat and B flat are very similar scales. They just have one note difference, which is your A flat. And so that's why I'm thinking just think about hitting an A flat there. So that's kind of the theory behind that. And then this right here, you'll see different things, as I mentioned. If you see it written like this, hot take, I would kind of think of this as like, hit that, as I mentioned, a D flat right here. And then when you have this A7, you can kind of just quickly hit like a flat 7 is really similar to a D7, and so that F sharp note, that F sharp note, which would be the third of the D7, if you think honestly, like you can think of it as like G harmonic minor just for those two. I mean, saying G harmonic minor over a flat 7, that seems kind of weird. Like that's not really a great fit, but in this case it actually is, because we're in B flat, and a D harmonic minor scale just kind of has a lot of similar notes, and it just kind of fits right in. So if you want to think of this as, trying to hit this D flat note, and then maybe think of like a D harmonic minor, try to hit that F sharp, and then you're back in B flat. That's kind of how I think about it. If it's in the case where you see in E diminished right here instead of an A flat 7, I would maybe think about that as like F harmonic minor. Again, I'm going to talk about this more, but harmonic minor scales are really useful in dealing with bebop chord changes, when you have lots of different lots of different short chords, and it's a lot of 2/5s, and you're moving through different keys. I think using harmonics minor scales can be really useful in navigating those types of chord progressions in a very fluid way. So I'll talk about that more in another video, but just wanted to talk about some other variations that you might see, and just, don't worry about it too much. It's totally fine. You might even, like, for this 2/5 where you have like this turnaround here, like someone might play all dominant 7 chords, and like you could do that when you're improvising, is treat them all as dominant 7, instead of like, oh, this is minor, this is dominant 7, this is minor again, so there are lots of different variations, and always, use your ear and try and see what other people are doing and be on the same page with other people, but it's not something you need to stress about too much. It's totally, professionals often, do different things at different times. It's totally fine. So nothing to stress about. So yeah, that's it. That's my rhythm changes series. Next, I'm going to talk about a 12-bar blues.